In many ways, this little bird has a better memory than you do. This is a mountain chickadee, and you might recognize it from its iconic call where it says its name over and over again like a Pokemon. Mountain chickadees cache up to 100,000 seeds in different locations to prepare for the harsh winters. And the crazy thing is, they remember where most of those seeds are hidden. Their incredible memories make them a prime candidate for scientists looking to understand cognition across the animal kingdom.
I'm Ayanna Richmond. I'm a PhD student here at University of Nevada, Reno, and I study chickadees. That one. That bird.
Iona's most recent study looked at how chickadees have adapted their memory to survive in an ever-changing environment. When you're up in the mountains, the weather can change in the blink of an eye. Being able to adapt your behavior in response to the environment is imperative to survival, even more so if you only weigh 10 grams. This adaptability is the result of something called cognitive flexibility, and it's an important thing to study for a number of reasons. Scientists theorize that animals with more flexible cognition will adapt better to our rapidly changing climate, as it'll let them solve problems associated with things like food availability and memory.
The idea of cognitive flexibility is that you are very quick with changing your memories. If you remember something was there, but now it's not there, then you remember that it's not there, you remember something else, and then you switch.
That's Vladimir Prvosudov, a biology professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. And he's been interested in birds since he was a kid, growing up in St. Petersburg, Russia.
I was trapping a lot of birds, bringing them in, and I was interested in falconry. Actually, I was training golden eagles and other type of things. So I got kicked out of my house by my parents because I had a golden eagle on my balcony. They really didn't like animals, so I would actually don't tell them that I'll bring them. I would sneak the birds in, don't tell them, hide them under my bed. I probably had anywhere between 6 to 30 birds living in my apartment.
Vladimir has been testing chickadee cognition in the Sierra Nevadas for about 13 years. In this study about cognitive flexibility, researchers presented the birds with a challenge. How quickly can they memorize a pattern and then forget that pattern when a new one emerges? In other words, can you learn, unlearn, and relearn a sequence when the sequences are very similar? Here's Ayanna, the first author of the paper, to explain how the experiment was set up.
We have an array of 8 bird feeders strung up between 4 trees to keep the bears away. But that's a story for another time. We give each bird a unique tag that opens feeders, just like how your key card lets you into your apartment at home. This lets us see how quickly they learn which one gives them a tasty sunflower seed. For this experiment, we gathered all birds and trained them on 2 feeders that opened for them. Once this initial training was over, our control group switched between these 2 feeders overnight for the remainder of the experiment. Our long exposure group, after their initial training, had 3 days each on 2 new rewarding feeders before they began switching overnight. Our short exposure group, the most challenging of them all, only had a single day to learn their new rewarding feeder before diving right into the switching pattern.
So what makes these puzzles so tricky? It's something called proactive interference. When you learn similar things close together, your brain stores them in the same spot. This makes it easier to get mixed up. It's like if you were learning Spanish and French at the same time. In Spanish, you learn that an apple is manzana. In French, you learn that an apple is pomme. Every time you try to say apple in Spanish, your brain shouts pomme instead. That's proactive interference. You're retrieving that memory from the same storage box, so it's hard to disentangle the words from each other. This is why these puzzles are so hard for these chickadees. Learning so many rewarding locations so close together will be confusing. The best way to solve these problems? Cognitive flexibility. Part of what makes this study so fascinating is that it challenges a lot of traditional cognitive testing, results that are even more exciting because the experiment took place in the bird's natural habitat.
So we're actually out here in the research forest we work in at the moment. And usually when we study cognition, traditionally, it's very much put into a lab setting. However, if you remove a wild animal from its environment where it's highly adapted to, the changing temperatures and the food sources and so on and so forth, and put that into a lab, you're not going to get a really good understanding of how that animal really behaves. The other thing too is that in a lot of traditional reversal experiments, you only have 2 options, right? It's just a binary, it's A or it's B, it's blue or it's red. However, this isn't what our reality is like, right? If you look around the forest, there are so many options for food. So there's something really interesting and really beautiful about having this array of 8 feeders.
Because of proactive interference, researchers hypothesized that the group that had the least exposure to the feeders would perform the worst. they were surprised in more than one way.
So kind of our two major findings here is that we found that exposure really didn't vary that much. It took them a little bit longer to learn, but by the end of the experiment, which ran for about 3 weeks, they're hitting the same performance metrics, if not slightly better, than our control group that only had 2 locations to remember. The other really cool thing is that we found they were able to predict where the feeder was going to open over time. It wasn't all birds. Probably by the end of the experiment, 20 to 30% of them were able to do this. And again, that doesn't sound super interesting. You're like, well, duh, if it's A, B, yesterday was A, then today's going to be B. That's simple, that's logical to the human mind. But really, that takes a lot of cognitive capacity to be able to do, because it means you're thinking about location, you're thinking about time and space, and you're able to incorporate past experience in figuring out which way is which.
As chickadees adapt to their own environment, humans need to do the same thing. With so much scientific advancement in recent years and the pushback that comes with it, there are a lot of questions about the value of science in today's society.
Why do we need painters? Or why do we need movie makers? Why do we need writers? It's not survival, but we're interested in this, right? So, in other words, I think curiosity is like a human nature, and just trying to understand the world around us, to me personally, is a big enough question to actually spend your life doing.
Iona's latest curiosity is the relationship between environment, diet, the microbiome, and cognition. Stay tuned for more exciting findings from the Chickadee Cognition Lab at UNR, and remember, the next time somebody calls you bird-brained, it might actually be a compliment.